Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of the Elder Scrolls Lore Iceberg. I have a lot to talk about before we get started, and the first thing I want to say is thank you guys for all the support. We are at 314 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Before starting this Iceberg series, I think I was around like 230 or something, and the first episode is nearly at 1,000 views, so I just want to thank you guys for all the support. It's been amazing. Second thing is about the channel. I know like majority of the content that has been coming out has been Among Us related, and this is not an Among Us channel. I've just kind of been going through an Among Us phase and just been having a lot of fun with it. Those videos are really fun to do, they're easy to edit and put up, and that's the reason I've been doing a lot of those, and I was hoping that those Among Us videos can kind of hold you over until the next Elder Scrolls Lore Iceberg video, because these take a really long time to make. Also, another thing, I did some research and figured out that Dragon of the North 98 actually didn't even create the iceberg. It was created back in 2019 by an anonymous user on 4chan, so I apologize for that, and Dragon of the North 98 got 2 free shoutouts for nothing. So last thing I want to clarify is that this is going to be like a really long ongoing series. I'm predicting maybe 13, 14 parts to this until it's over, because you got to remember this iceberg is absolutely gigantic, and again, in the Wendigoon style, I'm probably going to be doing other little icebergs and tackling those in between, since these videos take so long to make. So I'm also working on a video about the Oblivion iceberg that should be out soon. Eventually I want to basically have everything Elder Scrolls Iceberg related covered on this channel. I already started doing a Skyrim iceberg, but kind of scrapped that because Nat is cool kind of made mine obsolete when he came out with his video. I want to do the Oblivion iceberg, which I'm working on now, and then a Morrowind one, and then I don't know, maybe pre-Morrowind Daggerfall and stuff like that as this is ongoing. And I'll basically want to have everything Elder Scrolls lore related like covered on the channel in iceberg format. So now that all of the rambling is out the way, sit back, relax, like and subscribe, and let's get started on part 3 of the Elder Scrolls Lore Iceberg. Okay, the first point we're checking out today is slode soaps made from slodes. Slodes are basically slug people. They're a canonical race, but for some reason keep getting cut from the games. They come from a kingdom called Thras and also have many kingdoms underneath the ocean. Slode soap is a waxy substance made from the immature, non-sentient forms of the slode, and it's most of the time used for alchemy. In Morrowind, you can use bone meal and slode soap and combine them to make an agility potion. I really can't believe the Headless Horseman is this low on the list, beneath the Khajiit fur trader and the Ulthmer killing their own babies. I'm starting to think that most of these points were just haphazardly thrown onto the iceberg and not really sorted too much, but hopefully I'm wrong. The Headless Horseman is a headless ghost riding a spectral horse who roams around Skyrim at night. If you follow him, he will lead you to Hamvir's Rest, making various stops along the way. He can easily be followed on horseback and will sometimes interact with you and his surroundings. He's difficult to keep up with if you are not mounted, but it is possible. Sprint wherever you can, and if you have access to the Whirlwind Sprint Shout, you can use it to easily catch up to him. The first time I saw the Headless Horseman running around outside of Whiterun, it absolutely scared the shit out of me. You gotta remember I was around 10 at the time, and I remember I actually just turned the game off and didn't play it for like 3 or 4 days after that. Also, while looking up some stuff about the Headless Horseman, I found this really funny glitch where the horseman will actually chase his horse instead of riding it, and then the horse will go to Hamvir's Rest, and just the entire way he's just chasing after his horse, and it looks really funny. Memory stones are rare magical items that were used to record and project people's memories. These memories could then be retrieved at a later date by anyone in possession of the stone. These stones themselves are said to emit a faint glow, and distant voices and ghostly images swirl beneath their polished surface. Memory stones can also be magically attuned to the soul of an individual. Doing so allows the stone to summon the echoes of events that occurred at certain locations. The stone then absorbs these echoes and physically projects them into the world, allowing others to view them. So it'll basically create a hologram of someone's memories, which I think is really, really cool. Giant mud crabs is referring to the fact that all throughout Tamriel and all across the different games, you can find fossilized remains of just humongous mud crabs. I really hope there's a giant mud crab boss in Elder Scrolls 6, like just this absolutely gigantic mud crab, and like maybe you gotta knock out its legs to make it fall or something, or I don't know, that would be a really cool boss. Secret tunnels under white gold. During Oblivion's Thief Guild questline, the player can access ancient secret tunnels below the Imperial City, which only reveal themselves if first activated by the Glass of Time. It could also be a reference to the arena's final dungeon, where the player confronts Jagar Tharn in the Imperial Palace. This could also be talking about the irrigation tunnels, which is an area of the Imperial City sewers that is run by the Aldmeri Dominion. It connects the abyssal depths in the ancient underground, but it isn't really a secret. The Skyforge is an ancient forge capable of forging unique weapons and armor. It is currently tended by the greatest blacksmith in Skyrim named Yurland Greymane. Its heat is used to forge powerful weapons and light the funeral pyres of fallen companions. The Skyforge is often linked to the sun and the secret Underforge. Beneath is the metaphorical moon due to its association with werewolves. Legend tells that the Skyforge has existed since before the area was inhabited. According to the Songs of the Return, the local elves believed it to be a relic of the gods and consequently gave the area a wide berth. Ysgramor and his companions, however, were quick to claim the Skyforge as their own once they discovered it, and they built their headquarters Jorvaskr here. After this, others started settling and eventually forming what is now the city of Whiterun. So you can pretty much say that, in a way, if it wasn't for the Skyforge, Whiterun wouldn't even exist. The next one is hidden in Imperial Archives, but there's nothing really talking about this in the document, so I kinda had to do some research for myself. I couldn't really find much on this, except for a place called the Imperial Library that has 20 books. It's a lot of books for a library. If you know what this point is referring to, which I'm sure at least one of you do, please leave it in the comments. How did Daggerfall get its name? I don't know if this means in-game, like the actual lore, or if this means like out of game, where like why was the game called Daggerfall, but I'll explain both. Most theories seem to be based off the naming of Hammerfell. The Breton story told us that a Nord threw his dagger on the ground either to mark a border or to claim the land. Although this is a nice story, like all Breton stories, it's probably wrong. Daggerfall was founded by a Nord named Hjolmor Daggerfall. How Hjolmor got the name Daggerfall is a topic of great debate in his hometown of Morthal. One story says he was a clumsy man and would often drop his weapon. The other states that as a young boy he fell on a dagger and was scarred by the incident. Sailing from Solitude, he and his crew had hoped to settle in northern Rivenspire where the town of Northpoint had recently been established. However, a fierce storm blew them far west of their intended destination, and so they established a town at the natural harbor they discovered. Despite troubles with local elves and proto-Bretons, the town began to flourish and is now one of Tamriel's greatest cities. The great port of Daggerfall was one of the many jewels in the crown of the Nordic Empire. Without Hjolmar Daggerfall, there would be no great city in southern Glenbora, and for his great deeds the city still bears his name to this day. As for why Elder Scrolls 2 is referred to as Daggerfall, it's just because it's named after the place it takes place in. End of Times Cult. The End of Times Cult is a secret organization in Mournhold in the middle of the 5th century in the Third Era. Their leader is a guy named Erno Ramari, who encourages his followers to commit ritual suicide. The members of the End of Times Cult believe that the powers of the tribunal gods is waning. Their leader, Eno Ramari, foretells the death of the three gods, which will be only a prelude to the end of the entire era. This transition time, according to him, will be a time of, quote, great horror as the Oblivion Gates open and the Daedra enter the world. Okay, you got like this crazy, suicidal, death of the gods cult going on, but bro, you could come up with a better name than the End of Times Cult. Like, I'll come up with one right now. What about the Tribunal's End? I think the Tribunal's End would have been a much better name than the End of Times Cult. Like, that sounds like the name of a comic book that a middle schooler would draw. Female giants. Up until ESO's Orsinium DLC, only male giants were ever portrayed in the games, which led to many fan theories and speculation. Apparently, female giants are simply rarer than their male counterparts. All I'm gonna say is good luck getting a girlfriend if you're a male giant. The ratio is like 5 million to 1. Meteoric glass, also called ethereal crystals, are one of a variety of different types of ethereal fragments. The glass is crystalline and comes in various colors. It is prized for being magical in nature and highly enchantable. Meteoric glass very rarely just falls down to Nirn from space. Alicia's burial place. For some reason, no one really knows exactly where Alicia is buried, but it's rumored to be in the catacombs beneath Sacred Tor. This makes sense because being buried there is a Riemann dynasty tradition, but some believe that she could also be buried at the Temple of the One. Doppelganger hairs. In Morrowind, one of the generic rumors that the player can hear from NPCs is that Uriel Septim's hairs were actually replaced by doppelgangers, Daedra, or shapeshifters. They also mention how the Imperial City called up an angry mob which demanded the destruction of the false hairs. Bosmer are part human is referring to a quote from the Monomyth, which is that book that we talked about in part 2, where it said that the Bosmer had, quote, soiled time's line by taking mannish wives. Nords actually from Skyrim. This is talking about how the Nords themselves believe that their ancestral home is in fact Skyrim, where they and the other human races were breathed into life by Kine at the top of the throat of the world, according to a folktale called Children of the Sky. The serpent is really interesting. It's basically a constellation made up of unstars that wanders through the sky seemingly at random and is not bound to any of the guardian signs. The serpent is personified as a celestial in Elder Scrolls Online, where it seeks to destroy men and Myr to restore nature. Quote, "The serpent wanders about in the sky and has no season. Though its motions are predictable to a degree, no characteristics are common to all who are born under the sign of the serpent. Those born under this sign are the most blessed and the most cursed." End quote. Racial phylogeny is the name of an in-game book which explains the differences between the races of Tamriel and also establishes the concept that individuals are born as the race of their mother while taking traits from their father. The book tries to flesh out some plot holes and lore questions that people have had for a while by saying that, for example, if there's an elf woman and a human male and they come together and make a child, the child will be elf while taking most of its traits from its father. It also explains that Khajiit and Argonians can't have kids with elves and humans because just simply nothing happens. It also says that throughout the years there have been many reports of Khajiit and Argonians claiming that they're part Daedra, but that they haven't been proven to be true. It says, quote, "The reproductive biology of orcs is at present not well understood, and the same is true for goblins, trolls, and harpies, various Daedra, and many others. Certainly, there have been cases of intercourse between these races, generally in the nature of rape or magical seduction, but there have been no documented cases of pregnancy." It says that the Slode are hermaphrodites in their youth and later reabsorb their reproductive organs once they're old enough to be able to move about on land. It can be safely assumed that they are not infertile when it comes to men or other types of Myr. You know, the last thing I thought I would be talking about on this channel is whether a slug person can have a kid with a fairy. A wine knife is a weapon that you can only really use when you're drunk because it senses how sober you are, and the more clear-headed you are, the duller the blade gets. So when you're completely sober, it's like a kid's toy, but when you're ridiculously wasted, it's one of the sharpest blades in existence. Numidianism, I hope I said that right, is a term found in the book The Dragon Break Re-Examined. While its meaning is not elaborated upon, it may be related to the worship of the brass god Numidium and the concept of eschatology. Notably, one of the characters from the Redguard Forum Madness, Julianus Canaan, is a presumably insane heretic and ex-imperial chamberlain that apparently worships the Undurking and the Numidium. Numidium was a colossal construct of Dwemer origin. It was constructed by the Dwemer architect Lord Kagranok to be a new god, powered by the heart of Lorkhan, and made to retake Restane from the Chimer. Sadly, the dwarves disappeared from Tamriel before Numidium could be activated, though their disappearance may not be directly related to the endeavor. It was meant to be an unstoppable weapon, a quote, 1,000 tall automation, golem or atronach of sorts. There was a second Numidium called a Kulakhan, which was partially constructed in Morrowind in the late 3rd era by Dagoth Ur. However, the destruction of Kagranok's enchantments on the heart of Lorkhan in 3E427 prevented it from being activated. Who knows, maybe we'll see a third Numidium in Elder Scrolls 6. That'll be pretty cool. Man, I have such high hopes for that game. Humans were always on Tamriel is talking about the creation myth. I already talked about it like 3 times over the course of the series. I really don't want to talk about it again. Sword Singers were an order of Yakudan warriors who followed the way of the sword, a martial philosophy on blade mastery. Singers were capable of astonishing feats of swordsmanship and were viewed by some to be as much mages as warriors. Although the tradition of sword singing originated in Yakuta, it was brought to the shores of Tamriel by the Ragada in the First Era. The Sword Singers were instrumental in claiming the entire province of Hammerfell by establishing a new homeland for the Yokudan people. Reiklings are snow elves. According to Dialogue in Blood Moon in a book called Avar Stonesinger, some of the members of the Skull think that the Reiklings are actually the snow elves. There's actually a questline in Blood Moon where you debunk the myth. Also in Skyrim, Reikling and Falmer were shown to be 2 different types of creatures, but there's still some fan theories that suggest that Reiklings were like a type of divergent descendant from the original snow elves. Mournhold City, built over Dwemer City, built over Daedric City. Okay, so as far as I know, in the Tribunal expansion for Morrowind, you can go to a city called Mournhold, and then underneath Mournhold is these ruins called Old Mournhold, and inside of that are these Dwemer ruins called Bam's Ashend. And then if you go underneath those Dwemer ruins, they're even deeper, there's a Daedric shrine called Noreen Dur. So basically, Mournhold City is built on top of a dwarf city, which is built on top of a Daedric city. In Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, there was supposed to be a city called Such, which was going to be northwest of Cyrodiil, but it was cut from the game. Thing is, they left some ruins called Fort Such in the game. Now, there's a lot of in-game and out-of-game lore text that still refer to the city as Such and not Fort Such, and this has led to many fan speculations about whether the city still canonically exists or if it's just been torn to ruins, I guess. A dragon break is a phenomenon where linear time is broken and becomes non-linear. A dragon break not only precedes significant changes in Tamriel, but challenges mortal comprehension. It is a realignment of time and space in response to an event which makes the normal continuity of reality impossible. The first activation of Numidium by Tiber Septim at the town of Rimmon and elsewhere is said to have preceded a dragon break that heralded the Third Empire. Because the use of Numidium has not once but twice been associated with the dragon break, it is speculated that some of the events surrounding the Battle of Red Mountain and the disappearance of the Dwemer may also be explained by a dragon break. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for part 3 of the Elder Scrolls Lore Iceberg. Thanks for watching. I can't believe we're on part 3 of this thing and like have barely scratched the surface of the iceberg, but eventually we will finish this thing. I predict it'll take like 13 to 14 parts, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to be coming out with other icebergs related to like Elder Scrolls games, like the Oblivion Iceberg, the Elder Scroll Iceberg, the Daggerfall Iceberg, so hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified when those come out. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you in the next video.